Nyangche Chembur Zodan Nimi Chang Zodan Monum Chembur Ngabjabdan Dankar Dargam Sando Shirmardo Bomba Turti Janla Kisham Zar Only Janor Zangi Jangam Sun Jawar Tiki Shando Yadar Jimmy Penzo Jala Sorande Gontia Toban Bora Shinjir Lo Tenenji Tenji Kamte Dona Lobi Shanju Sanwa Sanwa Chembo Kongo Longo Shima Nida Di Tsenan Kortin Kortedi Langdir Tarmu Jerde Chundan de la Shagam Sante Chundan de Lander Kachib Kapsarado Chundan de Kip Dakchak Lanana Chundan de Dakchak Devjan Shaba Yonzam Nyangalin de Nayonza Chujir Namjan de Jitan Jikam Mamje Bayan Tabar Rapto Tambar Gyo, Lokbar Gyo, Yikim Jabar Gyo, Chupar Gyo, Chujir Namjan of Sumber Gyo, Chundan de Chujir Namjan of Daksala, Lokbar Kapsar Daksur. Teni Chundan de Jishan Susawa Tamjal Lander Kachib Kapsar Torigyo, Chitin Terter. Ndalachi Shaku then Jitin Kamam Janang, I shall to Sanhua, Kongo Shimani, Trigi Shimani, Trigi Shimani, Yote, Shanju Sanwa, Teta, Shanju Sanwa, Shanju Sanwa, Kongo Shima, Trigi Shimani, Konate, Shanju Sanwa, Teta, the Royan, Tetnieto, Tetoyon Samnian, and the Ban of Shimati, Tsena. Chujir Namjan Dunzun do Yang Tabar after Tondo Jundin Diki Tirkachip Kapsarmata, Jitinji, Kamamjit Kandok Tikbanar number Kibrikir to Kipatitaka Varna, Kankanjitenji Kamamjid de la Tin de Sachimbunda, Wokonamki Kamlani, Bishan to Sanwa Lixir Tawa Chimbum Sansam Chazani and Dambashia Chokja Tonjong Mambo Tonde, Jondan Deji Sonder Tawa Tone Saram Netonde, Dedole Shanju Sanwa, Reje Yang Shanju Sanwa, Gunga Hongushima, Gunga Hong Chikishima Nid Yote Chang, Tsogdan Tsogyo Chembo Dan, Tsogji Hombo Dan Shanju Sanwa, Tsogchembo, Tsogdan Tsogchembo Dan, Chuji, Sokondan, Tetayu Shanju Sanwa, Shia Chokja Tonja. Kongo Trigi Kongo Trigi Shimani, the data Kanjitinji Kamamjit, Saram Nindane Tomber de Janju Sanwa Sanwa Jimbo, Uyo Janju Sanwa Kongo, Shimar Ngapji Shimani Yobarta Jermo, Janju Sanwa, no Yo Janju Sanwa, Kongo Jipji Shimani, the Yobarta Jermo, Janju Sanwa. Chimbo yo jeba janju sanwa kongo longu shimani yoba nam tacher mo janju sanwa chimbo yo janju sanwa kongo longu shimani shishim ni yoba nam tacher mo janju sanwa chimbo yo janju sanwa kongo longu shima chi shimani de yoba nam tacher mo janju sanwa chimbo janju sanwa kongo Ringa dang je dang sam dang ni di shimani de yoba nam tacher mo janju sanwa我想就生活公共龙骨西嘛，你的有把那么大劲儿，我想就生活进步，想就生活公共龙骨西嘛，你西嘛，你的有把那么大劲儿，我想就生活进步，想就生活公共龙骨西嘛，你的是恰这个恰别恰，你是恰，我比恰加一恰，东个恰。夹着东个恰当西，恰当西，吃个夹当西，东个恰当西，夹东个恰当西，吃个吃夹东这个恰，那么有把大劲儿。上次sanwa chembo yang上次sanwa xia chok chok jia tong mambo yo ba nam ta jia mo上次sanwa chembo xia yo ba nam ta jia mo上次sanwa chembo no上次sanwa tong chok jia ji yo ba nam ta jia mo上次sanwa chembo yo tong yo ba nam ta jia mo上次sanwa chembo yo nge jia yo ba nam ta jia mo上次sanwa chembo no yo zhi jia dang sum jia dang ni jia gur nam ba ta jia mo上次sanwa chembo yo jia yo ba nam ta jia mo上次sanwa chembo sa yo上次Ngapchi yobar nam tajirmo devjan devjar dev shanju sanwa jimbo yo shanju sanwa jibchi sumchi nishi dang pchi dang nga dang zhi dang sim dang ni nambar tajirmo shanju sanwa jimbo dang ni ba nambar tajirmo shanju sanwa jimbo oyong me bakchik bar nibar nam tajirmo deda gachang samdang Pega Dariyang Mugbu Shanzu Sanwa Jimbo Tita Kan Jitinji Kamam Jin Jitinji Saram Ne Tun De Teta Lam Tumba Chundan De Dejan Soba Ranjan Mambu Nyangan Len De Badam Chundan De Dejan Soba Shakya Ta Badam Hansik Da Sanki Chi Kan Lab Jikba Rimbo Chim Chirtin Jimbo Namka Warnang La Ne Ba Kalawa Dardon Jang Ne Dejan Soba Rab Jumba Yang Dobar Zoba Sanki Teni Ji Jalum Gu Shamjar De Shanzu Sanwa 대전 서바시게 대반이 기주바 대전도 서바 거송도 금거 조지 진진된 게 감대도 나는 서바다 좀 rum보제나 조지 전생가 종나 생기 처라 비비 좀든 데데 탐치랍도 대성사데 대전 서바다 좀 양다버 조바 산지데더라 란 게르톤도 거네 션주스 또 바르나바트메 몸브르도 대 쇼치던 코드네 타르모비자네 좀든 대전 서바다 좀 바양다버 조바 산지 시작이다 바다 좀든 대전 서바다 좀 양덕불 조바선 제renchen mamgondala manglamgon bro shigmsarlo dinebjan jusanwa chembotedo firmne varti karar ngapchur zobro ndeki varda tebjan shaba namla shigmsar jan janju sankhuk tobar nabatom toto varti karar ngapchu potedo chondan de tabajembu cham makson jerdon ko jebotedo varti karar ngapchu potedo nilaya chimmason gobro ngerdo dene tebjan chondan de jirzamchirlam ngombrndo sha andartram zatte zamchita ngombrndo Запен куржбо дедекдедек шужочиг нямда шизо жирденги кам мымже бандаyon жирденги кам гяр томчг ги намки замда керде шанжузанга 용서 받는 통을 기도 шанжузанга 조전보던 шанжузанга 홍전보던 수 шанжузан가 전보 직강 쇼안다타테 шанжузан가 전보 쇼바 캬버찬지 샤와던 шанжузан가 전보 쇼밤 타이바지 샤와던 шанжузан가 전보 Shubar number Tabaji Shavadan, Janjusanwa Chimbo, Shuba Tambaji Shavate, Janjusanwa Zanwa Chimbo, Jibotetum, Shanjusan, Hua, Jimbo, Shanjusan, Pumbo Jimbo, Suri, Janjusanwa Jimbo, Jibote, Shanjusan, with Jimbo, Janjusan, Jimbo, Dundon, Jondan de Younger Tarmojan, Jondan de Landerkip, Capsardo, Jondan de Lapdom. No bajon some Nin Yon Lag Sama, they were Shaba. Larne some there sherpa deva la regle balane some jondan de tuji sem jernam tsirmzi ba la some lobra ko va la some other la some number jon la some jondan de sure je bar me per la tene janzu zanwa jimbo jibote de ge jondan de la tsu jaban de to surdo jirtem gombo yumza de rosho de reglarne lone sama no ble number to rapture lam digba mamga digba mamga deva gam kyoji zemjam surmzi zamodar la yanwar la sam jirten gonji shapana kyo ke per magitam tene jondan de jishanju zanwa jimbo shanju zanwa phombo de to su shanju zanwa jilander ke jipka sardo rigiwe de tevjin de devralagne so no pachon nyong Ni semchen de dogna tsirmzi so korlawo drlawo number jwa wo number jwa ngala kyo merketo tichifshir jena rigiwo kangani ti semchen de dogni yang de berzo basan ji ji ze jwa jibi shir de rigiwo kangam thongwa dong tuba zamji mu berjere wa san ji ji shi lara de jang kang dang nyan to le yong sun ji bir shi bar nam na ma to so de de kyang Tartar sanki silapsa te tun tambar tubar shieso tene janjuzanwa chimbo te takke tsixib chabandir. Kwabsardo huawo chimbo lakso laga kyoki semki tsirimzi jang darla nam darlar jang arlar remba kangtak kyoki na ishi zamon danyan jang tune mubar kirwa tang rembar kirwa rembar jikbar kirwa la dakchak jisa yerang o terki chiksur. Terki surwa tang chomden de ji shanju sanhwa chembo shanju sanhwe phombo chembo su shanju sanhwa chembo jibo te tagla rigjiwa lakso rigjiwa devjang shabala ngumbr to pa lakso jishawa jano teni shanju sanhwa chembo shamba xianyang semchen shanju sanhwa shia chakchu gyartong kongkolong ku shima ni get Shima get shima ni jin de nyam de sember jerde shanju sanwa chembo shanju sanwa pombo chembo kan seram ne ton de chongden de jisharngan de ne chongden de la ta tong de she ba dang zamber she de chongden de jiber she ban de dagchak ngun mam thongwa ma to ba shanju sanwa chembo de ka ne lakso nyam so de ne shanju sanwa chembo Shambi dang tesum dang somnir kirwa yang shi shanju sanwa chembo shia chakchu gyartong chag kongko hongko shima ni get ni de ki changde da qasim jar number to qasim ji rigne te la tisum jordi chomden de la tsigsib jabi yon ji ndar kar ji zo shanju sanwa ngun ma shong gyartong chag nam mambo da shia chag nam tai bar kang nim chok tan da sur zamchur chembo ndar nam da kang ni jirtar lakbaran jar rabdu chewe liki yagzo dadak kani chirtara lag dadak tamchir tanjang chamba dan la changchong che shindar dana dukpi zi dadak kani lagbara jar 上主三花开吉尔巴日日有将和马郎更个龙更个西马尼德巴电人去所就电脑网上主三花有那这等这只用长话更个龙个西马尼更加上去有把了花我有当单吉尔巴那般的这就那么的都在那更个龙这就可那西马现在的起码的有那么太单巴了，更个更个成那俺这当日这当那什么这当更个你休息嘛，你都用过的都。电信的乐，现在地位地嘛，地到南极这当呢，就被上级这那么的所这个有点把更年的人可能呢，差不多，那边人把地上他所这个有点把就是罗比周波的更个这当，更个热当什么当，你就是嘛，你讲当这样的起码话地上那么太的，个人学懂的。样得到后面的你妈了，得到后边你妈了，像就这花我去就把它个有那么更个什么知道你是吃的样呢，这样得到起码得个人学点那么是日中日几年得到那么了，才那这样得起码得有那么用啊妈了，学着这些啊，当得这些啊，去把个么这样长中去那么就人就这话写着。제 정알에 난데 바 남 탐식기당 제 바나 용kur 동당 담바나 대전자당 ring압저당 거르시와 저거저요 대덕 정월은 마에서 화워터 거 요는 니시다당 저당 단 대전지저 니바 양 대다 당나 정맘지 강도당 녀치저 낚치부지모 뉴용저바 강덕대랑 더러하바 대덕라양 정맘지 장장 럭나 통내서 강덕시마니 Ji kara karte ma zhang jiang di jiang ta ma nian ma la gen jiang qi dang ne de xu bu sun ji dam xiang zhe zhen hua hua wo jin de nam gang le xiong wa le geng geng de de chu nam dan xiang zhe zhen ne si yi ge de la si yi dan bar mu geng ge dan ban zhen ba le san de tam shi du ne ze zhu zhe dang de gen ne Kei xiang zhen zhe dan ba dang xie re qin bu nam jiang ne xiang zhe zhen hui ji ba zhe de de tuan ban de dan ne de ban ji ba Kama跟的生给比老说的东南洋到这个温吃的用呢，也蛮多的一些个南张南京的人吧，但到说了就是到这个那么的样当样钱呢，人生换的到那到这南京用蛮多。去几这那么几讲呢？到这南洋蛮通完的这个，地上产了通，特别的一学把送人生话找东个，这个呢也那么讲，他们知道我们是大么的劲儿，跟你们说了的这个大。这个大像是生活就知道吧，华文的这个练习，干练习，碰不我们会也把华文全部弄当说。
Today there is a lot of Tibetan transmission. Why? I almost fell asleep. You also fell asleep, right? Or not? No. Is it really no or just saying no? Today we continue teaching the Lotus Sutra, and tomorrow we will also teach the Lotus Sutra. Today's content is this. We just finished teaching the chapter 14, and today we teach chapter 15, which is the chapter on Bodhisattvas emerging from the earth. Before this, I will briefly tell some stories. There are many, many stories about the Lotus Sutra. Among them, one is about people who read the Lotus Sutra, dispelling all evil spirits and heretics. In the past, a disciple of Master Ji often recited the Lotus Sutra and practiced the Lotus Samadhi. Later, one night, he saw a 9-headed dragon emerge from the ground, and it ascended into the sky. He was very surprised at that time. When he asked Master Ji said, "This indicates the taming of beings in the 6 realms or 9 categories. It shows that these beings have broken free from ignorance and entered into emptiness, realizing the nature of emptiness." Later, this disciple continued to practice. In the process of practice, it seems Mara hosts often came to disturb him. When he was sleeping at night, they would knock on the door and various things happened. Later, he remained unmoved like this. Generally, people who practice prajna, who practice the Lotus Sutra, are not afraid of Mara hosts. obstacles or such things. Many of us are in a state of fear, doubt, and worry about gain and loss. In such a state of being anxious about gains and losses, but generally speaking, those who truly practice prajna emptiness, needless to say, those who have realized prajna emptiness, even if they have not realized it, if they have some theoretical understanding, there is no problem at all. From then on, these Mara hosts also praised him excellent. They often comforted him and did not bring obstacles. There is also another story. During the Tang dynasty, a monk went to northern India. He obtained a Sanskrit version of the Lotus Sutra. He read and recited it himself and taught it everywhere. Perhaps when he went there, he learned Sanskrit. Later, he did not return and died there. After dying, he passed through the intermediate state and went to King Yama's place. King Yama asked, "When you were alive, did you accumulate any merit?" He said, "I did not do other merit, but I often read the Lotus Sutra and often taught it to others." Then at that time, King Yama said, "Reading the Lotus Sutra for yourself is quite good, but teaching it to others, this is taught with conceptual thoughts. What merit is there in this? There isn't have any merit. Taught with conceptual thoughts, illusory, not real." At that time, that person said, "Reading the Lotus Sutra is for self-benefit, and teaching others is giving through wisdom." How can you say there is no merit? There should be merit. Later, King Yama was very surprised and stepped down from his throne, requesting him to ascend and teach the Lotus Sutra. Then this monk ascended the throne to teach. As he was teaching, many beings in the three lower realms were all liberated, their shackles naturally opened, and so forth. Later, perhaps, King Yama was worried that his retinue would be gone, so he told him to stop. "Do not teach any more. That is enough." He said, "Your lifespan has not ended yet. You can return to the human realm." This monk returned after 3 days. Later, when he told about these experiences, many of his disciples developed especially great faith. Later, they all continued to study the Lotus Sutra. So in Chinese Han Buddhism, there are indeed especially many stories about the Lotus Sutra, beneficial stories for this life and future lives, quite many. So all of us should also understand. Especially in Chinese Han Buddhism, indeed, during a period of time, the propagation of the lotus was very successful. Below, we will teach the Lotus Sutra. At this time, many Bodhisattva Mahasattvas came from other lands. The number was very great, already exceeding the number of sands of 8 Ganges rivers. Among this great assembly, everyone pressed their palms together and bowed. These bodhisattvas, who came from other places, especially numerous, they pressed their palms together and addressed the Buddha. They said, "O Bhagavat, please listen to us. Because these bodhisattvas spoke before the Buddha, we, after the Buddha's parinirvana, in this Saha world, will continuously practice with diligence and also preserve the Lotus Sutra and recite the Lotus Sutra, copy and make offerings to the Lotus Sutra. In this Buddha land, we can extensively propagate the Lotus Sutra." What this means is that these bodhisattvas from elsewhere spoke before Shakyamuni Buddha. After your parinirvana, we will properly propagate it. Then Shakyamuni Buddha appeared somewhat displeased. Before the parinirvana even happens, how can you say we will carry on your legacy and so forth? And moreover, with these that are not related to him at this time, the Buddha told these bodhisattva mahasattvas, "No need. Stop. No need, O sons of a virtuous family. There is no need for you. You do not need to preserve my sutra. There is no need for you to preserve the Lotus Sutra, because so many bodhisattva just came." So sometimes we can also see that many people say, "Do Buddhists have any distinction between self and others?" Actually, there is. One's own school and other schools already existed when the Buddha was alive. For example, some people often say, if I serve under this master, I can also serve that master. All masters are the same. All are Buddha Dharma. All are manifestations of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. For me, there is no distinction. Actually, even the Buddha should have no distinction, but the Buddha also has his own school and other schools. At that time, when so many bodhisattvas equal to the sands of 8 Ganges rivers came and preparing to propagate the Lotus Sutra, the Buddha already stopped them, saying, "You do not need to preserve it." He said, "Why is this? In my Saha world, I have existing bodhisattvas equal to the sands of 60,000 Ganges rivers. I have many bodhisattva mahasattvas. Why do you come here? Before I have entered parinirvana, you guys are coming here." He said, "I have bodhisattvas equal to the sands of Ganges rivers. Each bodhisattva in turn has a retinue equal to the sands of 60,000 Ganges rivers. The Tibetan version is slightly different. In Tibetan it seems to be 600,000, then below 500,000, and 400,000, 300,000, and finally 60,000 to 100,000. Perhaps the numbers in the Indian Sanskrit original are slightly different. The Tibetan is slightly different in these numbers below. At that time, the Buddha told them, "We have bodhisattvas equal to the sands of 60,000 Ganges rivers here. Each bodhisattva also has this many retinues. These bodhisattvas can, after my parinirvana, it is not for you to propagate. If someone needs to preserve it, they will preserve, recite, and extensively teach the Lotus Sutra." Here we should understand that even the Buddha, he did not say, "Since you are all bodhisattvas, what you do is all good deeds." The Lotus Sutra is very good. You also come to propagate, and I also have such great sutra. You just join our team. He did not speak like this. Apparently these bodhisattvas at that time may have felt rather embarrassed, because they all came here and in front of Shakyamuni Buddha they circumambulated and bowed, and then said, "We are here to come to preserve your teachings." Actually, preserving the teachings is very important. Whether in our present time or in the future, in the Mahaprajaparamita Sutra, it is also taught the three teachings praised by the Buddha with inconceivable merit. Which three teachings? The first is generating bodhicitta, the second is preserving the true Dharma, the third is practicing according to the teachings correctly and in accordance with the Dharma. Generating bodhicitta, preserving the true Dharma, and practicing according to the teachings correctly and in accordance with the Dharma, these three are also praised by the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, and their merit is also supreme. So for us here we can learn from these bodhisattvas to making aspirations. The Buddha said, "I have those who recite and preserve," which is the same. We should also continuously make aspirations and not retreat in the middle. Finally, truly preserving the true Dharma is very important. Protect the Dharma in the three times, beginning, middle, and end, always praised by the Buddha, greatly benefiting sentient beings. The Kusuma Hastottara Sutra says, if we preserve the true Dharma, we should do so in the three times, that is to say, in the beginning time, middle time, and final time. We should preserve the true Dharma in these three times. If it is like this, the Buddha constantly praises it, and sentient beings also obtain its benefit. We should not be like those people who are so aggressive, who at the beginning, when ordaining or first generating bodhicitta, say, "I want to propagate the Buddha Dharma, propagate the true Dharma." For 2 or 3 days and nights they do not sleep, listening to recordings, especially earnest. Then in the middle time, the novelty period has already passed. In the end, not opposing Buddhism would be considered acceptable. Some may not even be able to propagate or protect the Buddha Dharma. They may destroy the Buddha Dharma. The mentality of some people nowadays is indeed especially frightening. So we should be like these bodhisattvas. We should make aspirations. What aspirations? Aspiring that throughout our lifetime, if I truly have the ability to propagate the true Dharma, I will properly propagate and preserve the true Dharma. Because among all merits, you see, generating bodhicitta and protecting the true Dharma, and also what we just mentioned, practicing correctly, these three merits are also supreme. In this way, we should also try our best to do this. This is teaching about what the Buddha just said. There is no need for you. I have my own bodhisattvas to preserve the true Dharma and also to recite and extensively teach. These are also theirs. So in this regard, I also hope that the eminent monks and great masters of our various schools and sects, and also some Buddhists, although from a broad perspective, all sentient beings possess Buddha nature, and all Buddha Dharma is the teaching of our teacher Shakyamuni Buddha. It is also acceptable to have no distinctions. But in a certain sense and from a certain karmic perspective, each has their own traditions. For example, in Tibetan Buddhism, there are also many schools, and in Chinese Han Buddhism, there are also many schools. So for ourselves, if a certain school is primary, or if a certain institute's or a certain master's lineage is primary, perhaps for your mind stream, there should be, especially for realization, especially for transformation, a kind of karmic connection. If you are very general without any so-called sectarianism, many people in the West now speak of non-sectarianism. On one hand, this is very good, but this is just a saying of the Western liberal school, and it is an academic saying. So in our process of practice, perhaps in our practice, we meditate on our teacher Shakyamuni Buddha, we meditate on a certain guru yoga, you recite a certain school's liturgy, then throughout your life there is no need to keep changing. Otherwise, perhaps in the end you cannot grasp anything. On the surface, the slogans you shout are very good. Equality, freedom, ease, everything is according to conditions and so forth. This sounds very good, but actually you have no discipline, no concrete practice. This aspect must be carefully noted. So some of our volunteers should focus their service on a certain special specialty. This way, perhaps it will be better. Otherwise, originally, many of our volunteers serve here and serve there, and in the end, both sides cannot receive true benefit. In the end, perhaps nothing meaningful was accomplished. This also happens. Next, we will teach that when the Buddha said this, the entire earth of the Saha world, the great manifold cosmos, began to shake and then split open, and from within, immeasurable thousands of myriads of kotis of bodhisattva mahasattvas simultaneously emerged. Actually, from our present understanding of the cosmos below the earth itself is actually in space, so saying they emerged from innumerable worlds is also acceptable. But from our conceptual thought, perhaps the earth is just an especially large thing. But anyway, when the Buddha said this at that time, the earth split open, and thousands of myriads of kotis of bodhisattvas emerged from the earth. These bodhisattvas' bodies were all golden in color with the 32 marks. These bodhisattvas were no different from the Buddha. The 32 marks with immeasurable light, these bodhisattvas previously all dwelt in the space below this Saha world. They themselves dwell in the space below our present Saha world. And these bodhisattvas heard Shakyamuni Buddha's voice at that time. Many bodhisattvas came to grab positions, so they were very anxious and quickly came out. Then from below they began emerging from below. No, because in other worlds, when Shakyamuni Buddha said he had many bodhisattvas, they all came directly. After coming, originally we had the Master has come, the Master has come, so bodhisattvas have come, bodhisattvas have come. Each of these bodhisattvas, every bodhisattva, are all very remarkable. Foremost leaders of the great assembly, all able to lead many other beings, other bodhisattvas, great leaders, great bodhisattvas, great Dharma teachers, great guides. They led retinues equal to the sands of 60,000 Ganges rivers. Here it says moreover. In Tibetan there is also moreover kind of saying. Actually moreover can be said as or there are, something like that. Some of these bodhisattvas had retinues equal to the sands of 60,000 Ganges rivers. Some led 50,000, some 40,000 Ganges sands, some 30,000, 20,000, 10,000 retinues equal to Ganges sands. This is also slightly different from the Tibetan. It adds a zero in front, slightly different. But these differences are not very great, even having one Ganges sand number and half a Ganges sand number and also a quarter of a Ganges sand number, even 1,000th of a myriad of a koti of a nayuta. Above Ganges sand numbers, we use Ganges sand numbers to compare. So below 1,000th of a myriad of a koti of a nayuta, and also thousands of myriads of kotis of nayutas of retinues, and also some with myriads of kotis of retinues, some with thousands of myriads, hundreds of myriads of retinues, even 10,000, and also some bodhisattvas with 1,000, 100, even 10, and also some retinues leading 5 retinues, 4 retinues, 3 retinues, then 2 retinues. Disciples and bodhisattvas, 2 came together, some only brought 1. Some solitary, delighting in remote practice, some perhaps are not gregarious, perhaps they like to travel alone. Some of our Dharma friends also often, when walking together with some people, cannot get along. Among lay people, there are also solitary comers and goers. Actually, solitary practice has 2 situations. One type practices especially well and does not wish to be with others, practicing alone, reciting, meditating. Some have especially bad temperaments, finding others disagreeable, and others find you disagreeable. So in the end, they can only travel alone with no choice. Some like solitary travel, staying away from other groups and traveling alone. There are also such cases. Just now, all these bodhisattvas came to the front. Like these and such, like this, just now, emerging from the earth, so many bodhisattvas, immeasurable and limitless. If we were to calculate the total number, it would be very difficult. Using metaphors to describe. There is no way to explain it especially clearly. This is a special way of describing things in Buddhism. After these bodhisattvas emerged from the earth, they all went to the 7-jeweled stupa in the sky. In the previous chapter, we specifically taught that in the 7-jeweled stupa, there are Tathagata Prabhutaratna and Shakyamuni Buddha. The stupa of Tathagata Prabhutaratna, that is to say, Shakyamuni Buddha and Tathagata Prabhutaratna, are both in one Prabhutaratna stupa. They went there. After arriving toward these two Buddhas, these innumerable Bodhisattvas began to bow. And also, many Buddhas who are emanations of Shakyamuni Buddha are also sitting in the entire world at that time. The entire world at that time, all sentient worlds were completely cleared, and all these boundless places had thrones. On the thrones were the Buddha's emanations, immeasurable and limitless, also sitting on Dharma thrones. In the previous chapter we taught this. To these Buddhas on lion seats under jeweled trees, they also bowed one by one and circumambulated 3 times to the right. In Tibetan it is circumambulated hundreds and thousands of times. There is some difference in this. They pressed their palms together respectfully, praising with various languages of Bodhisattvas. Then remaining on one side with joyful demeanor, they gazed at the two Buddhas. So what is taught here? On one hand, Bodhisattvas praising the Buddha's merit and also circumambulating 3 times to the right is very important. Many of our Dharma friends still do not really understand. For example, when we see a stupa in a certain place, at least we should circumambulate 3 times to the right. Or if there are some monasteries, some temples, some Buddha statues, it is best to circumambulate 3 times to the right. I once saw some leaders, they originally wanted to circumambulate the mandala, they just circumambulated once. They said, to see the Larungar more clearly, we will circumambulate again. This saying is still acceptable because after circumambulating once it seems unclear, meaning to see what the situation is more clearly, to see clearly circumambulate again. So circumambulating 3 times to the right, many Buddhists still do not really understand this. For example, when we see a stupa, of course if there really is no time, there is no choice, but if there is time, at least circumambulate 3 times. This is very important. Or when seeing Buddha statues and stupas, if you have time, prostrate 3 times. This is commonly used in Buddhism. If we do not have time to circumambulate 100 times or 108 times, 1,000 times, if there is no time to circumambulate like this, at least circumambulate 3 times. But I see many of you do not seem to value this very much. It seems like they do not understand. Because the Buddhist sutras clearly say circumambulate 3 times to the right, especially many sutras are like this. But as a Buddhist, if others do not understand, that is understandable. But for us, as regular Buddhists, moreover, some people who have studied quite well, it seems that when going to a sacred site, when circumambulating a stupa, either they do not circumambulate, or if they do, they circumambulate once and leave. If you circumambulate once, 2 times, 3 times should be there. But it seems not understand the merit of circumambulate. This shows that someone actually do not really understand certain Buddhist behaviors. There is also a reason for this. One is that seeing stupas, Buddha statues or monasteries, circumambulation is very important, and praising is very important. The Mahaprajnaparamitopadesha says, praising the Buddha's true merit causes everyone to rejoice. Through this merit, generation after generation one is dignified. Because of the reason of praising the Buddha's merit, people are all very joyful. Because of this merit, generation after generation or life after life, one becomes dignified oneself with dignified appearance. People nowadays especially like to have good appearance. But looking good does not come without cause or condition. If you want to look good in your next life, it is best not to say many faults of others. If every day you look at others with contemptuous eyes and insult them, in this life, when you lose your temper, you often have wrinkles. So in your next life, you will definitely be ugly. If you want a dignified appearance, you must often praise the Buddha and make offerings to the Buddha, and also rejoice in others' merit. The Mahaprajnaparamitopadesha also says, if you often praise the Buddha, people especially like you also like this. If you often praise the Buddha, you will obtain much wealth life after life, and also eloquence without obstruction and so forth. There are many verses. I just used only one verse. The meaning is praising the Buddha's actual merit makes many people joyful, just like in the past, the praise surpassing the devas, and also the wish-fulfilling vine for praising the Buddha. Often praising the Buddha's merit in this way, one also becomes dignified in appearance life after life. If you do not believe in karma, then that is another matter. If you truly believe in karma, many negative karmas in this life, try your best to stop and not create them. As for virtuous actions, you should do them by yourself. Why? Because what you do, you will definitely experience yourself. If we do not perform such actions, perhaps we truly are especially foolish people. So we should remember this aspect. So just now, all these bodhisattvas before the 2 Buddhas and also in other Buddha worlds bowed to them. At this time, the Bodhisattva Mahasattvas, who just now had already emerged from the earth, these bodhisattvas praised the Buddha with various praises. Praising the Buddha, the time was still very long. For 50 intermediate kalpas, they continuously praised. At this time, Shakyamuni Buddha also remained silent, sitting there, and the fourfold assembly also remained silent, not saying anything, also for 50 intermediate kalpas. So let us think, 50 intermediate kalpas, indeed the time is especially long. We should also remember this. Everyone should know some terms in Buddhism. Actually, here also, because of the Buddha's transcendent power, later everyone felt that it was only half a day's time, only an afternoon's time. But why it is 50 intermediate kalpas just then, such a long time? Everyone knows what a medium kalpa is, what a small kalpa is, what a great kalpa is. Those who have studied the Abhidharma Kosha are very clear about this. Of course, in our Tibetan, it seems to say 50 medium kalpas, which is even longer, even more. So actually, this is sometimes in Buddhism, sometimes in different illusory worlds, all have different concepts. For example, in the Vimalakirti Sutra, at that time, the place where Vimalakirti lived was especially small. Both length and width were 3 meters. But later, when Manjushra Bodhisattva led many retinues there, in this small room, 32,000 seats were all present. The room did not expand. The Dharma seats did not shrink, but they could all be contained within. According to our common sense, this is absolutely impossible, but actually it is possible. So why did Einstein say that time and space are merely people's delusions? In this regard, we can also know, if it is half a day's time, making everyone feel it is truly extended, we can say it is 50 intermediate kalpas or 50 medium kalpas. If we shorten it, actually it is half a day's time. But in terms of the true nature, time is neither long nor short, nothing more. Those of us who have studied emptiness should understand this principle. So here also teaches this concept. At this time, the fourfold assembly also, as just mentioned above, through the Buddha's power, the 4 groups of disciples, saw these bodhisattvas filling the sky of immeasurable, limitless, hundreds of thousands of myriads of kotis of lands. Just now they saw these bodhisattvas all filling our Saha world, the immeasurable, limitless sky. Among them were 4 bodhisattvas. One is named Bodhisattva Vishistakaritra, and one is called Bodhisattva Anantakaritra. The third, Bodhisattva Vishuddhakaritra. The fourth is named Bodhisattva Supratistitakaritra. These 4 bodhisattvas, among all bodhisattvas, they should be the most authoritative, the primary guides, I suppose. In the great assembly, they pressed their palms together and inquired of Shakyamuni Buddha. What did they inquire? Because among so many bodhisattvas, they especially in appearance inquired of Shakyamuni Buddha about what? Shakyamuni Buddha, hello, how is your body? Have you been sick recently? How is your mood? Do you have any afflictions? Have you been happy recently? Are the beings you guide obedient? Is it easy? Bhagavat, have you had any difficulties, suffering recently, or discomfort, weariness, and so forth? Actually, these words are still very important. The communication, dialogue, and exchange between these bodhisattvas and the Buddha, at this time, they all have a respectful mind toward each other. Actually, bodhisattvas have also eliminated all afflictions. Logically, they also do not need to ask, do you have afflictions? Are you sick? Are you weary? How is your retinue of disciples? They did not need to ask like this. As for the Buddha, he is even more free from all faults. But in appearance, they all have this. So I also think that many of our Dharma friends and Buddhists, in future communication between people, must pay attention. Otherwise, nowadays, the relationships between people become increasingly cold, indifferent, and moreover, some people, I often encounter such cases, including the other day when I encountered someone on the stairs. They clearly already knew me, but turned around very angrily and walked away. I just watched for a long time. I thought, what is this? Does this person have some problem or what? I even greeted them and nodded, but they just ignored me. Really like this. I often encounter such cases. You also know some people who used to treat you especially well. Suddenly they just changed and ignore you. These people are strange. I think their mentality is very crucial. Sometimes people's mentality changes especially fast. And some people have heavy afflictions reactions, heavy suspicion, plus I do not know what reason mutually, generally speaking, between people, if greeting too excessively, holding on and not letting go. This is also troublesome, but at least if you were familiar before, we hear many people say that when liberating animals, I knew this person before, but why when I met them this time, he just ignored me completely. Many people, whether at life releases or at Dharma assemblies or when seeing a certain master, among us lay people, such phenomena are especially common. I think these people indicate that perhaps, not to mention practice, they do not even have the basic worldly etiquette and manners of interaction. Generally speaking, if you truly, at that time perhaps your eyes were a bit presbyopic and you did not see, in logic this is called perceiving but indeterminate cognition. Although I saw it, it did not produce any concept for me. This exists. I saw it, but it did not arouse my consciousness. For example, I saw this person, but in my mind I did not recognize them, or I saw it very clearly, but I did not think this was so-and-so. Perhaps they think they already saw me and did not greet me, but sometimes it is definitely not like this. They clearly already saw and just walked away like that. And these kinds of people, if you keep watching them from behind, when they have gone to a far place, they still look back, then walk away again. There are also such cases. So I see that Buddhas and Bodhisattvas are especially warm and affectionate toward each other, comforting one another. When we teach the Vinaya also, the Buddha also often sees sick bhiksus, and at such times will greet them. And these bhiksus, when seeing other bhiksus, will also greet with each other. Even people who do not know each other will also greet each other. But many of our Buddhists are not really politely and normal. Perhaps it is their own problem. I think these people have their own problems, their own psychology. Perhaps they have some depression, panic disorder. Perhaps it is like this. Otherwise, you clearly already know them and there has not been any estrangement between you. So why avoid each other? Especially nowadays, many people clearly see someone's call coming, then just do not answer. Forget it, I won't answer. Just throw it there. This is many problems with our human hearts. You clearly know it is this person, but you seem to have no reason toward them. Perhaps some people have their own issues, so-called hatred or resentment. These perhaps exist, but among bodhisattvas one should not abandon such things. The Bodhisambhara Shastra says, if a bodhisattva has no karmic connection with sentient beings for teaching them, one should generate great compassion and should not simply abandon them. One should generate great compassion, one should not. Even if you have no karmic connection with them, you should not abandon them, not disregard them. Even when seeing them, glare at them, then turn around and walk away. If it is like this, what Mahayana Buddhism are you studying? Sometimes among our Buddhists, I often go to some other religions without Buddhist faith or other social organizations without any faith, but their relationships are still quite harmonious. It seems there are not so many afflictions toward each other. Of course they exist. Definitely, I know that in every group there are definitely afflictions, some disputes. These do exist, but sometimes it seems like indeed our Buddhists are relatively difficult to guide, or our interpersonal relationships we do not know how to adjust. Nowadays, many Buddhists, it seems they do not know how to adjust relationships with superiors, do not know how to adjust relationships with subordinates, do not know how to adjust relationships with people around them. In the end, they are especially lonely, because many people, it is their own reason, have already messed up with the entire surrounding environment. This is their own reason. Why is it that many people, the leaders, also ignore you, and your subordinates and colleagues also treat you badly? Actually, most of it originates from oneself. You think this world is very bad, but actually it is our own problem. Therefore, I see these Buddhas and Bodhisattvas greeting each other like this. Indeed, it is hard to imagine. Our Buddhists do not have merit whatsoever. Compared with these Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, what do our ordinary people have in our mind streams that prevents us from greeting others? Why can we not speak to others? We should reflect on this aspect. These four great Bodhisattvas also spoke in verse, saying, O Bhagavat, are you at ease? Are there any illnesses or afflictions in your Dharma body? Is there any weariness in teaching sentient beings? Are sentient beings easy to guide? O Bhagavat, in your entire life, are there any weariness or fatigue? Actually, in Buddhist sutras, there are also several types of guiding sentient beings. The Bodhisattva Bhumi Sutra also teaches that as for taming sentient beings, there are those tamed by the Buddha, those tamed by Bodhisattvas, those tamed by Shravakas and Pratika Buddhas, and also using gentle speech, soft language, and some using methods of scolding to tame, and also some distant taming and near taming. Perhaps we now are all. Near means through a very close distance to teach them the Dharma, or in very distant places, through different skillful means to teach it. There are all kinds. This is what the four Bodhisattvas just said. At this time, the Bhagavat spoke like this among the Bodhisattva assembly. It is exactly so, O sons of a virtuous family. The Tathagata is at ease. Just now they asked, did they not? When they asked like this, he said, the Tathagata is very happy, without illness, without afflictions, and moreover, these sentient beings are especially easy to guide. There are no afflictions or weariness. Why is this? Because these sentient beings actually, life after life, I have long guided them, those with karmic connection to the Tathagata. And they, in the presence of past Buddhas, have also accumulated much merit, served respectfully and so forth, planting very many roots of good merit. The Buddha's retinue, comparatively speaking, is quite easy to guide. He said, it is fine, you do not need to worry. My guiding of sentient beings is also very easy, because in many past lives they all had karmic connections with me. And moreover, these sentient beings, when they first saw my body and heard my Dharma words, all directly generated faith and merged into the Tathagata's wisdom. Especially these Bodhisattvas, perhaps from the first time they saw, from the first time they heard his Dharma words, from then on they never retreated. Perhaps in the world some masters are also like this. Perhaps from the beginning they took refuge, and from taking refuge on they continuously studied his Dharma, continuously relied on him. There are also such cases, continuously entering into the Tathagata's wisdom, except for a few individuals who continuously study the teaching of the inferior vehicle. These perhaps are not directly guided by the Tathagata. Perhaps it is slightly difficult, but these people, the Buddha said, I also enable them to hear the Buddha Dharma. In the presence of the Tathagata, they have no way with the Mahayana Dharma. But I find ways to enable these bodhisattvas. They also enter into the Buddha's wisdom, gradually, not all at once. It is like in the Mahaprajna Paramitopadesha. I remember there is a metaphor. There is a great mountain. On top of the great mountain, there is a mountain of treasures. On top of the treasure mountain, if one wants to obtain these treasures, it is especially difficult. But there is a wise king who made a ladder for this treasure mountain, enabling even 7-year-old children to climb this ladder to go up and obtain this treasure. Similarly, the Tathagata's teaching of the true aspect is like a treasure mountain. If we go directly, there is no way. So later, the Tathagata used the ladder of the 84,000 teachings so that even our Shramaneras over 7 years old can enter this treasure mountain and obtain teachings corresponding to themselves. Therefore, each of us obtains different teachings. The true aspect of phenomena they pursue is also different. But what each obtains is actually also true. Therefore, we can also see that the sentient beings guided by the Buddha all have different karmic connections. But actually, indeed, the Buddha's kindness to us is extremely great. Just like what is taught in the Mahaprajna Paramita Sutra, even if we used our own flesh and blood to make offerings to the Buddha, there would be no way to repay his kindness. So all of us present should also think, if we had not encountered the wisdom of the Buddha Dharma, perhaps we would still be continuously sinking in samsara, experiencing countless sufferings. Many of us present here, we dare not say we have realized anything, but if you had not studied Buddhism now in samsara, you would truly be especially troubled. You also have such experience. Although we dare not say we have realized, but indeed after we studied the Buddha Dharma in life, in your human life, there has been an incomparable transformation. This is also the mighty power of the Buddha's wisdom. Next, I will briefly teach. These bodhisattvas spoke in verse, saying, "Excellent great hero, O Bhagavat, you, toward these sentient beings, can guide them through very simple methods." This ask is probably hearing the Dharma, meaning hearing. It can also be like this, right? In Tibetan, it means hearing the Buddha's profound wisdom after hearing, directly generating faith in him, and then in actual practice to practicing. We, bodhisattvas, are very much rejoice. When is it that when hearing, the when of inquiry? Can it be used in classical Chinese? Inquiry is probably not. Below there is above I can also see all of this. Perhaps this should be when, meaning hearing. Hearing the Buddha's profound wisdom, after hearing, generating faith in him and actually practicing. So we greatly rejoice in the Buddha's such merit. These bodhisattvas spoke like this. You all, at this time, the Bhagavat praised these bodhisattvas. Excellent, excellent, O sons of a virtuous family. Your rejoicing in the Tathagata's merit like this is very good. The Agama Sutras also teach we firstly have a rejoicing mind, then a joyful mind. With a joyful mind, the body obtains rest. When the body obtains rest, the mind obtains happiness. In this way, virtue naturally increases. So if we have a rejoicing mind, immediately the mind becomes happy. When the mind is happy, the body relaxes. When the body is happy, perhaps the mind is indeed very joyful. Such merit is also inconceivable. The following is relatively simple. At this time, Bodhisattva Maitreya, together with bodhisattvas equal to the sands of 8,000 Ganges rivers, they thought like this. They said, from Potion, from the past until now, we have never seen or heard of so many bodhisattva mahasattvas emerging from the earth, then inquiring of the Tathagata before the Bhagavat. Bodhisattva Maitreya and others also thought, so many bodhisattvas suddenly came today. We have never seen them before. At this time, Bodhisattva Mahasattva Maitreya knew the thoughts in the minds of the bodhisattvas equal to the sands of 8,000 Ganges rivers. They were also continuously doubting. Today, why did so many bodhisattvas suddenly come? Just what are these bodhisattvas doing? All kinds of bodhisattvas, we do not recognize any of their faces. So many bodhisattvas have come. At this time, Bodhisattva Maitreya thought, these bodhisattvas are also thinking, where did these bodhisattvas come from? I also have some doubts, so I must resolve this question. I must ask clearly. Then he went before the Buddha, pressed his palms together and asked in verse. So below, using this, he said, today so many unfamiliar bodhisattvas have come. Where exactly did they come from? What are they doing? What clothes do they wear? What specialty? Must be asked all the questions clearly. He said here, immeasurable thousands of myriads of kotis of great bodhisattvas. We have never seen so many before. Today, O best of humans, Shakyamuni Buddha, please tell us, these are said to be your retinue. Originally, there are many other unfamiliar bodhisattvas have came, but you said your retinue came in such numbers. From which Buddha land did these bodhisattvas come? For what karmic reason did they gather here? And moreover, their bodies are so tall, possessing transcendent powers, possessing wisdom inconceivable, and their mental power, resolve, wisdom, and correct knowledge are all firm with the power of patience, causing sentient beings who see them to generate great joy. Where did these bodhisattvas come from? Don't ask me where I come from. I started singing. You also have a hard time with this. The retinues of all these bodhisattvas are immeasurable and limitless, like the sands of Ganges rivers. Some bodhisattvas have retinues equal to the sands of 60,000 Ganges rivers. So many bodhisattvas in the great assembly. They are single-mindedly seeking the Buddha path. These great bodhisattvas have retinues equal to the sands of 60,000 Ganges rivers, and moreover all came together to make offerings to the Buddha and also to protect and preserve the Lotus Sutra. There are also some bodhisattvas with retinues equal to the sands of 50,000 Ganges rivers. Some already exceed the sands of 50,000 Ganges rivers. Some have 40,000, 30,000, 20,000, 10,000, and also 1,100 Ganges sands, even one Ganges sand number. Half of one Ganges sand number, or 1/3, 1/4, or 1/myriad part of a koti. There are so many such bodhisattvas. There are also some bodhisattvas with thousands of myriads of kotis of nayutas, and also myriads of kotis of nayutas of disciples, even half a koti. Some, their numbers already exceed this. Then some hundreds of myriads, and also 10,000, 1,000, 150, 10, even 3, 2, 1. I'm now a bit anxious. The time has already passed. Some bodhisattvas have no retinue, delighting in solitude. They all came together to where the Buddha dwells. In the Tibetan, there are many other numbers here, 100,000, 200,000 nayutas, and so forth. All those whose numbers already exceed the above. Such bodhisattvas also came quite numerously. Such great bodhisattvas, their entire number, the number of bodhisattvas, if we were to calculate the numbers of all the bodhisattvas, already exceeding kalpas equal to the sands of Ganges rivers, there is no way to know their limit. So many bodhisattvas, possessing great might and virtue, possessing vigor, a host of bodhisattvas, who taught them the Buddha Dharma. Because today so many bodhisattvas suddenly came, who taught the Dharma to these bodhisattvas? What have they been taught and perfected in? Where did they first generate bodhicitta? What Buddha Dharma do they propagate? What kind of conduct do they uphold? What kind of sutra? What sutra do they practice daily? What kind of Buddha path do they practice? These bodhisattvas possess great transcendent powers and great wisdom. And moreover, after the earth in the four directions split open, they all emerged from within the earth. These bodhisattvas said, O Bhagavat, from the past until now, we have never seen such a thing. We hope the Buddha will tell us the name of the land from which these bodhisattvas have come. We bodhisattvas often travel throughout various countries, various places, but have never seen these bodhisattvas before. They are all strangers, all like Africans. Among all of these, we have never known any of them. Actually, these bodhisattvas are not ordinary. Some of our Dharma friends go abroad every day. These bodhisattvas often go to all kinds of countries, but have never seen them before, do not recognize even one. Today so many suddenly appeared. What is this karmic reason? You should tell us. In today's great assembly, there are immeasurable hundreds of thousands of kotis of bodhisattvas, all wanting to know this matter. Not only Bodhisattva Maitreya. Bodhisattva Maitreya is just representing them in asking. Actually, all these bodhisattvas want to know, why has so many bodhisattvas appeared today? We bodhisattvas often travel throughout worlds equal to innumerable sands of Ganges rivers, but we do not recognize these bodhisattvas. Today has so many bodhisattvas has appeared. Everyone wants to know, where exactly did these bodhisattvas come from? These bodhisattva hosts, their original and final karmic conditions, their original, their final, these karmic connections we want to know. So, O Bhagavat of immeasurable merit, please definitely resolve our doubts and explain this principle clearly. This is a question and answer section, so his answer will be taught in the next class.
Sonamdei tamse vogaya tonne Dharma pasi Jirgana jirano chupai Jupun sonen droa droa
Bandangara Badna Sodargye Bandangara Badna Sodargye Bandangara Badna Sodargye